proposal to go from the top. Excuse me,
Mr. Turner, can Mr. Walker come to the podium, please?
just so the board will know, as he moves up, there's a number of questions on this phone audit, and with our services at ATT, are we being in charge, or we using lines, we have not been able to get an answer, as was indicated earlier over the past few years. We have done one phone audit. Of course, the board at that time hired AT&T to do their own audit, which in my mind is akin to hiring a fox to go out the in-house. Of course, you're not going to find anything wrong. So I wanted to get an outside source, which is where I'll be driving this to today, because I don't know that AT&T, and perhaps now that everybody's aware, we got a couple $100,000 deal now, don't we? Maybe somebody will start moving on this, and maybe they'll get Ms. Davis and start talking about this. We have had a private sector proposal come in that I don't know for a fact that we don't have to go out for an RFP for this, a request for proposals in this, because it's not a professional service. It's not an engineer, it's not a lawyer, it's not one of those types of professions. This is just, somebody who wants to do an audit on the phone. And I think we have to go out for a proposal with that. That's my understanding of the law. I think you and I talked about that also. So basically, I'm going to throw the issue out in a public forum here and see if we can come to some sort of resolution. And if we can, to Ms. Davis's satisfaction, I'm willing to go back and revisit the payment of AT&T this morning. But if we can't, or we just kind of reach a stalemate, then maybe we'll try again in a couple of weeks. So, kind of an introduction there to you, Ms. Davis. Could you kind of review maybe the history of what you've been trying to do since you've been here for the last 4 years, 3 years?
2.5.
2.5 years. In what would seem to be a pretty simple process. I know if we call some of our other vendors and said we have a problem with ambulance service, or we have a problem with this, that, or the other, they will be with you before 2.5 years is up. So can we start with that and just leave us in this, please?
You did a thorough introduction, which really explains the board's desire in the past of trying to get a phone audit and reviewing all our phone lines and services. Since I've been here, the discussion has not really carried on too much. I know me and Mr. Bryan talked extensively about the background as relates to the need of a phone audit, and from my understanding that we never really received not a response, but we had not gotten a clear understanding whether AT&T would be able to perform a phone audit. We did have an audit on our circuits, and so that has been completed. So certainly this has been, the desire for an audit has been regenerated and brought back to my attention that it was needed. As you know, last spring we did go on a state contract pricing program with AT&T phone lines. We did get a reduction in our phone services doing that. And in that process, as I mentioned to the board before, we were able to review some of our phone lines at that time through just going through that process of repricing and rebilling our statement. And we have, as a department, or the county itself has been able to go through that list and find some lines in ourselves on how to look through some of those services and see what we don't need. Recently, I did talk with Mr. Walker, and he indicated there was a possibility that if we did need an audit, we would need to go through the state department, ITS department, to review our phone lines. I'm not quite sure what the process is with that, but that's where we are right now. I know there was concerns regarding, the board has concerns regarding the invoices being paid, and asked me, have we been satisfied with services and things like that. There have been issues in the past where we had to resolve certain phone line issues, and taking unused phone lines off a list, and had been a process to go through, but we eventually worked through those and have gotten those phone lines and the resolutions to those issues completed. So we're here at this point with the desire of having phone audits. And I guess right now we're at the crossroad of how do we make that happen. And I know it's the desire of the board to get to the bottom of that, and I'm so glad that the representatives are here to help us get to it.
Excuse me, can y'all answer that question? How do we do a phone audit? I think you said through the state. Is there a direction we need to go through? What is that process?
Well, let me say a couple things.
You would state your name for the record?
Yes, my name is Michelle Turner. I'm the account manager for AT&T.
Okay, and Mr.
My name is Mike Walker. I'm the executive director of external affairs at AT&T.
Okay, thank you. Proceed.
When we went through the process, I recommended to the county maybe 2010 that they should take advantage of the reduced rates on the state contract. Generally, when you go through that process, there is a audit that you receive that was presented to the county. Every line, every billing unit, it's a little much. It's not summarized, but everything that you have is exposed in that sheet. I provided to the county at that particular time. Now, what an audit will not do is tell me what phone lines that you're using. I mean, I don't know if you're making calls on them, if they should be dead or disconnected. I can tell you everything you got, where it's supposed to be, and what the billing is. And we provided that. I know in 2011, Britt Baxter, when we went through this process, that request was made once again, and Britt Baxter provided that to the county. And he's a technical support person for AT&T. Now, what have not been probably audited would be E911. But to give you a summary of what the county has, the county E911, the board voted on some time back, it's under a contract. All those billing elements at that time was evaluated, and the board signed off on that particular part of your bill, which is the biggest part, which we're not paying today. All your voice services are provided through the state. That was audited. There was some data circuits associated with E911 that was not audited because it wasn't a part of the state transition. I talked to Phil Fisher, several people about how they were billing, but he did not want to put those on a contract. I went to...
Now, that's not me you talked to.
No, I talked to the department.
There's another Phil Fisher?
I mean, not Phil Fisher, Larry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about that. Sorry about that. I went to Joey
You're
Perkins.
more offended than I am.
I understand. I went to Joey Perkins on the same thing, presented something to him. He was excited about it. He could see where he could save some money on his E911 bill. We postponed that through the selection of a coordinator. When Mr. Young came on board, Joey told me to present that to him. I did. He brought it before the board. Now, those was the only circuit that was outstanding that was not under contract with AT&T. We presented that. We discussed it last week. Discussed it in the presence of Ray Bryant. I asked him what was the issues here and what was Mr. Stokes and Supervisor Fisher looking for. They couldn't tell me. I tried to meet with probably Supervisor Stokes maybe 8 or 9 times. Tried to meet with you a couple of times to see what the issues were. So I thought maybe the whole thing was to come to a public forum and discuss whatever issues you have.
I remember you trying to meet with me in October or November of last year, and the meetings were canceled the first one thing and the other. I haven't had a recent phone call from you that I'm aware of.
Well, I went to your office, and the young lady there said while I was en route, she was trying to send me a message saying that you wasn't available. I think that was in January. And I was on your premises then. She told me it's probably best to come back, 7:30ish in the morning, probably catch you there in the office. Hadn't had no occasion to do that yet.
Let me stop at this particular point. We do know that that information regarding the last issue has netted the county over $30,000 worth of savings since last year.
Yes.
The county, since the Motion was made by Mr. Young that the county has received over $30,000, and Mr. Brandt found that and made sure that that happened this past couple of weeks. So we know that we're going to receive it on the February bill, so that is a positive. Mrs. Calhoun, then Mr. Stokes, and then we'll go back to Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
As we're discussing, this board has not paid 18 months bill over the past month.
Yeah.
This morning, I think you've already answered the question, but this morning, my voicemail services, the voicemail services were not working in the courthouse across the street. Is that a warning that AT&T is getting ready to cut off?
Well, like in the past, in some cases, what hope happens is your staff to clearly define what is an AT&T issue and not. This is not, voicemail is not an AT&T issue.
Well, you did, as I said, you answered it earlier.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Mr. Bryant, before we go, Supervisor Stokes, did you want to comment on that issue?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Calhoun, that is the call manager issue. Is your voicemail, and it's being worked on at this time.
Okay, thank you.
So it wasn't AT&T, that's on our call manager side.
Mr. Stokes?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, at no time anybody tried to meet with me 8 or 9 times, period. Now, I haven't received 8 or 9 calls, and I have Ms. Mangum here who run my office, and I have Mr. Flowers here. I think we had one conversation on the phone, because I don't even know him. I know Mike Walker. I've never seen this gentleman before. And he done tried to meet with me 8 or 9 times, and everybody knows you can come by my house anytime. I have not made that effort to meet with me, and I'm not going to vote on anything that I feel uncomfortable with. You didn't even bring the changes in saving us money until I brought up we paying too much money to AT&T, but we always talking about the other folks. That's when we found money all of a sudden that we could save. So to come up here and say you can try to meet with me 8 or 9 times, don't lie like that.
Okay, wait a minute. Mr. Stokes?
Let's make sure we stay.
We will. We're going to stay. Mr. Stokes. Mr. Stokes? I talked to Ms. Mangrum a couple of times. I talked to the gentleman.
8 or 9.
Wait a minute. I'm adding
You talked to me on the once.
I talked to you and Ms. Mangum. I called her a couple of times. I asked for them to contact you to let you know that I would like to meet with you. Now, I talked to a gentleman maybe last week, and he said that he would call you. I called him 3 or 4 times, asked him if he had gotten in contact with you. He said no. I said, would you mind giving me his cell phone number so I can talk with him? He said no. I talked to a young lady on 3 occasions, and at one occasion I insisted that she put you on the phone. That's one time I talked to you, and you told me at that moment that Mr. Urban Bullitt was going to save you X amount of money. I told you he's with your staff now, and you and I can have lunch once that concludes. And I never heard anything else back from you.
Oh. You gave me your number, or did you call me?
I gave my number to your staff. I called you through your staff.
Well, then how did you expect me to call you back if I didn't have your number?
Because I left it with your staff.
But you could call them and talk to me at that time. So, you know, if AT&T don't talk to me, they talk to Mike. If Mike had called me, we would have talked. But all this, only thing I'm saying, let's save some money. Now, all of a sudden when I start complaining about the money issue, you can find it. All of a sudden it's a magic bullet. You come in here through the new E911 director, EOC director, and you say, oh, we're going to save some money. But that didn't happen no time before I brought up the issue that y'all robbing us.
That's not true.
Let's see if we can kind of figure out what we can do to resolve it and move forward, because I don't think we got to.
Okay.
I don't think we
want to make sure we stay with the issue.
Yes.
Let me suggest we do this.
Mr. Fisher has a question.
Issue of good faith, because Ms. Davis has talked, and I've talked about this a lot on many, many occasions. Can we get, since we're all here, y'all three, or Mr. Turner and you, to agree on a meeting time in the next, say, 24 hours, and sit down, go over step by step all the issues that you've had and the questions that you've got, and as a token of good faith in that effort,
Yes.
if someone who voted in favor of paying AT&T were willing at this point to make a motion to rescind or to revote, then I would be glad to to go ahead and pay the bill. But that assumes a meeting in the next 24, 48 hours, and we can come to a head for this and be through to make sure we've cleared up all of the issues, meet with the county administrator. Okay? Fair?
That's fair. Whenever Ms. Davis sets a date and time with us.
Don't do that. I'll be willing to pay them and we can move forward. I'm not trying to be obstructionist. I just want to make sure that we've got everybody, that opportunity to sit down and talk.
Okay.
Okay. I will make the motion to rescind the motion from the claims portion of the agenda where we did not pay AT&T. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. We rescind the previous motion.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do them one at a time because you had several. So we'll do rescind the motion for claims 18, 15, and 1902.
Okay, do we need to do them individually? Can we do all of them collectively since all of them involve AT&T? Or they have different claim numbers, so we need to do it in...
Actually, I guess at this point, because the motion just failed.
Correct,
you can
since it
probably
failed.
You don't even have to reconsider it. You can just, because you didn't reject it and you didn't approve it.
Correct. So it's a tie vote, so we don't have to reconsider or rescind, but the correct vote would be to reconsider. So we would just make a motion, and the motion would be not to reconsider, since it did not pass.
I think
just a motion to approve. Okay, and I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor of? Opposed to?
No.
Motion passes now. Brenda, would you please just restate the claims that we're passing?
you want all of those.
That's correct.
So you have claim number 1815 and 1902. Claim number 1753, which is over $100,000. Claim number 2122, and claim number 2290, which is over $100,000.
Okay. All right. So we're all clear on that. Mr. Turner, Mr. Walker, we appreciate you coming in. We'll make sure that we'll get with Mrs. Davis to get this the other issues resolved as it relates to AT&T.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
All right. Any other statements?
So what did we just do?
So what we just did, we voted to pay all of the bills, and they're going to get with Mrs. Davis to meet to try to resolve the issues that you and Supervisor Stokes had.
I ain't remember for voting.
Yeah.
That's what I did?
Yes, you did.
Well, okay.
Okay.
You done had some share of those don't
I think I've been actually working one time.
Mr. Walker, Mr. Turner.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. And we really do appreciate the savings that we have received from AT&T. Okay, Mr. Fisher, continue.
Yeah, let's move on now to the mosquito spray. We're coming upon that time of year. I had asked in a previous meeting